Also, there are some agitated birds that are very chirpy in this tree right next to me. They just chased a hawk off. And that is the second time I've seen that with a hawk getting chased off from the area. And there were 2 instances while my dad was in the rehab hospital where I saw it with vultures getting chased off. And it's like almost always by 3 smaller birds. I think these were probably starlings, but I won't swear to that. But yeah. So it's been a lot of weird little things that have been going on lately. Yesterday, okay, I've been thinking for a while, it's been a long time since I've seen a 4-leaf clover. I used to find them a bunch. I have 3 from 2012 that I found, and yesterday when I was walking the dogs, I found another one. So, and yes, I picked it, obviously. It was a good thing I did, because today they mowed the grass and it wouldn't have been there, so, yeah. But, that was fun, because I've been thinking recently that it's been a while since I've seen one, except for the ones that I have, that I saved from back then, put in tape and whatnot. So yeah. Today, when I was walking the dogs over at the... Actually, before that. Okay, so my mom had an appointment this morning, and since she's been driving herself everywhere else, she drove herself to the appointment too. And it was fine, because I had to drive a family friend somewhere. They were down to 1 vehicle, so she asked if I would give her a ride, and said she'd give me some money, and it's like, alright, I'm in. It was like, took like 10 minutes maybe, and that was only because the construction has complicated the path to get from point A to point B. But while my mom was gone, I heard somebody knock on the door. That's kind of unusual. We get a whole lot of like Amazon packages and all that bullshit. Here lately it's been home health too, but you know, still, I think we usually catch them at the door before they even have the chance to knock. Didn't know anybody was coming. And my dad didn't know anybody was coming. And my mom didn't know anybody was coming. So, they knock on the door, and the dogs are going crazy, and I stuck my head out the door. It's like, oh! I was like, I did not realize home health was coming. Let me put the dogs outside. So I did that, and told my dad that they were there for him. This is, of course, post-stroke and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, so he starts cussing up a storm because he didn't know anybody was coming, and he was sitting there in his underwear and his shirt, watching TV in his spot, and then it took him like 5 minutes to get up so he could meander back to the bathroom and or to the bedroom so he could change. And, you know, of course, Kane's missing again. So, yeah. I let the lady in, was talking to her for a little while. And she's probably she's probably a little younger than me. But she asked something about how he was doing, and it's like, well, I said, that's kind of a complicated question. I said, it's not real pleasant, but that's not a new thing, so it's not really a stroke-related thing necessarily. It's just maybe amplified. But, you know, I told her, my mom and I had that conversation the other day where it's like, you know, he did say on his birthday last year, like, he was all sorts of pissed off and just having a bad day. And when my brother, you know, because we all went out for lunch, when my brother kind of pushed him to see what was going on with him, he said, I just really thought I'd be dead by now. Like, it was just the biggest disappointment in his life that he was still alive. So I told her about that, so she kind of had that little awareness that that was a thing. And then, of course, that was part of why he stopped taking his meds, which potentially contributed to the strokes, but also had the brain surgery, which could have also contributed to the strokes. But whatever, it's like, he's just, I don't know. Just grumpy as fuck. I didn't say that part necessarily, but I said I don't even know how I got to that point. I said something about working on finding my way back out of there. I said I had to move back in with them when I got divorced in 2019 and haven't made it out yet. And she asked what I do, and it's like, well, I said I'm trying to make entrepreneurial stuff work. I said right now I have this YouTube thing that I'm doing, but it doesn't make anything. And I said it's kind of become a sort of talk therapy. I said my family does not know about it. Well, the majority of my family does not know about it. My brother knows about it. My one aunt knows about it, but they haven't seen anything. But they know it exists. And she said that was really cool and whatnot. But it's like just the conversation. It's like that was the first time that when I've talked to somebody, I've been more open about that aspect of what I'm doing. But it was very specific. It's like, it's very much, I said when I started it, I didn't know why exactly. I just knew that I was supposed to start it. And then once I did, it kind of became a sort of talk therapy thing and healing from family stuff that I didn't realize had been as much of an issue throughout my life as it has. So, yeah. Anyway, it was just kind of a weird experience actually starting the day with talking to somebody about that I didn't know, but am trying to embrace more of the different aspects of what's going on in my life now, I guess. Anyway, after she left and I ran the family friend to her appointment, I went back home and walked the dogs. Well, I got the dogs and we went over to the high school to walk. And that was where I found the 4-leaf clover yesterday. And today, we were over by the tennis courts. And Taz got all excited because he found a tennis ball. If anybody's there playing tennis, I usually make them leave the balls behind. But since nobody was there, and it was just abandoned in the side lot, it's like, alright. So he picked it up, and he carried that thing for like the last 10 minutes that we were walking. I was expecting him to drop it somewhere along the line. We made it all the way back to the car, and then dropped it, and then it rolled under the car. And he tried to grab it, but I don't know if he just couldn't reach it in that time or if it rolled away from him a little further. I ended up getting it for him, and then he played the entire time he was in the car. He kept putting it in the cup holder, and, you know, then I'd have to get it out for him because he'd start scratching at it because he couldn't get his nose in there to get it. But, yeah. So he was really happy about that. While we were over there in that same area, Gidget found a hawk feather. And this is the second one that has made its appearance in the past couple weeks. So, of course, I had to look up what that means, right? So, I found this, you know, I just Googled hawk feather and some things about the symbolism came up. Paper on my shirt. Okay, so the spiritualgleam.com page says hawk feather as a symbol of spiritual guidance, vision, and perspective. Hawk is renowned for its powerful eyesight, which symbolizes the ability to see far beyond the obvious. Discovering a hawk feather encourages you to open your eyes and mind, urging you to develop a broader perspective and envision your future with greater clarity. Hawks soar to great heights, giving them a unique vantage point. Similarly, finding a hawk feather may indicate that you are being called to elevate your spiritual awareness and gain profound insight into your being and the universe. It encourages you to let go of fears and self-imposed limitations that hinder your journey toward personal freedom. Invites you to embrace change, spread your wings, and experience the liberation that comes with true self-expression. It can be a sign you are being protected on your spiritual path, providing support and reassurance during times of vulnerability. Symbolizes strength and agility, reminds you of your inner power and resilience, inspiring them to rise above obstacles and tap into the strength needed to conquer life's challenges and achieve personal growth and triumph. It's like, those feel pretty relevant. And another thing, when I was driving the family friend to her appointment, there was a heron that flew over. And as I was on my way over here, because I'm at the school down the street from my house, but had to take the long way to get over here because, of course, there's construction and it's blocked the easy way. But it's like, well, that clearly means something today. I had already grabbed the book because, of course, you know, the hawk feather thing came up earlier. So, oh, and, well, from the first appointment, the heron too. So I got books. Okay, so the easy one on this big book, my Shaman's Guide to Power Animals by Morrison. Okay, it says, there's a magical space you will find when you look into the water and see the reflection of you. Call in heron for getting what you want and being willing to wait for it, the power of stillness, a purposeful, solitary existence that nonetheless values relationships. If heron comes into your life, it is time to get still and seek wisdom from within. Realize the freedom that can come from being alone. Go with the flow. And the shaman's intention, it says, support me to embrace confidence in all that I do. And it's on page 123, so 1, 2, 3. And the other book, Celia Gunn's An Introduction to Totem Animals. What did she say? Okay. Hidden Wisdom. And honestly, when I saw the heron fly over the first time, immediately what came to mind was Godsmack I Stand Alone. I don't know why that was the first thing. It just like literally just popped into my head. Anyway, keywords: vigilance, independence, balance, and ancient knowledge. In ancient Egypt, the heron was a symbol of the solar cycle of contemplation. In both Africa and Europe, it represented vigilance and divine knowledge. It stands watchfully, its feet anchored in mud, but nests high in trees, moving gracefully among the elements, symbolic of emotions, body, and mind. With heron as your totem, you are probably unconventional. Traditional roles do not appeal to you, so you see yourself as unique with your own path to follow. Your intuition is strong, and the opinions of others are of little interest to you as they have unless they have information that resonates deeply with you. A balanced person, you have your own way of doing things, and you are adept at seeing and seizing opportunities. If heron has appeared to you in some special way, you are being reminded that all answers, all wisdom come from within. Perhaps you have been swayed too much by what others have to say, or you have become too reliant on someone else. Heron can help you with finding your own way through life, through being observant and listening to the teacher within you, your intuition. So I just like those little things. But also, because the hawks, and then I saw the one being chased. So Hawk says, take charge of who you are beyond the personality and realize that true strength is within you and available when you hear the call. And the shaman's intention, teach me to speak, hear, and be truth. Call in Hawk for honing your perception of the world around you, assistance with strategic planning, an expansion of your intuition, and opening up to messages from the upper world. If Hawk comes into your life, it is time to take your power back, work on better awareness and seeing things as they really are, and move from innocence to wisdom. And what's the other one? Oh, not that one. If I can turn the page. Yep, nope. There we go. Fuck my contacts up. Yeah. Okay. Force. Alright, Hawk says spiritual perception, foresight, perspective, healing, and strength. In cultures all over the world, the hawk represents the light that illuminates darkness, sacred to the ancient Greek sun god Apollo because of its keen eyesight. It was linked to prophecy. In ancient Egypt, it was sacred to the sun god Ra, and its hovering stillness was linked to a fixed star in the heavens. Many cultures use a hawk feather in healing rituals. Hawk is the powerful totem of a person who is a born leader. If hawk is your totem animal, you've probably experienced powerful dreams and visions since you were a child. An extremely spiritual perspective allows you to readily access higher levels of consciousness, yet you have an eye for detail. As your judgment is clear, you often take the initiative. Other people don't often understand you, your ideas, or your actions, but no one can tell you how to think or behave. When hawk catches your attention, be aware that a powerful message is coming. New powers such as visionary abilities may be about to be awakened in you. Perhaps you doubt yourself or need to stand back from a situation or relationship and look at it in a different light. Maybe emotions have clouded your vision or your plans have not worked out and you need to take time to look over them and go with the flow. Hawk helps you see things from a new perspective and to balance your energy. So, all the things, and now my contacts are jacked up. I don't know, it just seems like there's just been a lot of like little weird things that have kind of been going on. The 4-leaf clover. Oh, and on the way back home yesterday, after I got the 4-leaf clover, as I was pulling up to the stoplight to turn onto my road, there was a car with the 1111 on the license plate. And then today there's the hawk feather that made its appearance, and Taz found his ball, or found a new ball. He's so damn proud of that thing too. He kept throwing at me. Like, I was trying to get into the car and he kept like dropping it on my seat, and then I'd move it, flip it back, and then he'd flip it back on my seat. Can I just sit in the car, please? And there's other messages. Okay. So last night I was pulling some cards from this cosmic reading cards deck. This one, I just brought the book. The first card that I pulled was Free Spirit, which was a 13 card, and 13 is the Death card, which is all about transformation. So yeah, okay, so for this one it says, if you were drawn to this card, Spirit is encouraging you to look deeper within yourself and see what it is that is holding you back from living a more purpose-filled life. Do you harbor thoughts of not being good, worthy, or talented enough? What vibration are you sending out to the world to receive the roadblocks that you currently face? Remember that what you wish for in life needs to be an exact match to the beliefs that are lying in your subconscious. If they're not in sync with each other, then it is most likely that your wishes may take a lot longer to manifest. What detrimental beliefs have you been holding on to all these years? Reframe and replace any detrimental beliefs uncovered with beneficial affirmations. And then, so that was Free Spirit. Then I got Be Fearless, which was 3. It says, do you really want to look back on your life and see how wonderful it could have been had you not been afraid to live it? So that's Carolyn Miss. It says, building those walls of fear does not protect you from the unknown. It keeps you imprisoned in a cycle of challenges. These challenges may come in different disguises, but ultimately they hold the same energy. To transcend this repetitious wheel is to shine light on and face those inner fears. This is not a battle, but an act of pure love and compassion. Go within yourself and find out where these fears stem. Fears are usually born from something you've seen, heard, or experienced personally. Send the shade within you, love, understanding, and compassion. You are stronger than you realize. Take that next step to live your life fearlessly. So, Free Spirit, Be Fearless, and Shine was the last one. It says, shine, for you not only light your path, but the path of others around you. If you have selected this card, Spirit encourages you to shine your extraordinary radiant light. You have traveled a long road full of experiences that consisted of reservations and uncertainty of self. Now you find yourself inspired, motivated, and ignited with a sense of purpose and passion. Limitations of the mind that once kept you bound have been released, and you are now ready to take that next step. It is time, dear one, to follow your heart's true calling and sing your unique song. Spirit thanks you for having the courage to step away from the crowd despite the caution of the mind. The more you build on your creative passion, the brighter your light will shine. Not only will your surroundings transform to reflect your increasing vibration, but many around you will be inspired by your achievements and personal growth. Just by following your heart and doing what you love best, you will assist humanity in raising its planetary light. Some may become envious of your accomplishments and success, but don't feel obliged to turn your lights low to appease the discontent in them. Keep shining, for soon they too will be inspired by your luminous glow. A strong current is propelling you forward in a positive direction, steered by the heart. A path that is driven by the heart is a soul that is limitless and fruitful. Have fun during this wonderful time and express your beautiful soul for the world to see. You deserve it. And when I pulled those last night, I was listening to another tarot reading where she was basically talking about the same thing. So she's like, okay, so repeating messages to some degree. But just a lot of messages in general, really. Excuse me. It's been kind of a weird day because I don't know. I feel like it's just a whole lot of working on going with the flow and, just kind of seeing where life takes me is the big thing. I went to bed early last night because yesterday morning, technically night before last, I didn't go to sleep until 5 o'clock yesterday morning. And I felt it a lot, right? But the thing that I did was I put another post on my YouTube channel, the letter to the beloved, if you will. And see, okay, so I felt like writing the other day, and I felt like starting with this sort of introduction to the book, right? And the dedication point of the book, right? So, since the whole twin flame thing is the big part of what I'm even doing with that, because I feel like that's the story that I'm supposed to be telling specifically. 2222. Again. Okay. Also, yesterday, for some reason, I was meandering through some of the screenshots that I have on my phone. And I have this one thing from this Twin Flames 1111 page where she was talking about the different numbers, different repeating numbers as they correlate to the twin flame connection. And for 222, she said that this is often seen as a sort of I love you between the twins, right? So that in mind, and 1111 is like you're entering a new phase of the connection somehow. So 1111 with the one I saw on the license plate yesterday, and then of course I saw it on it was a mixture of the odometer and trip mileage today, because it was like 211.1, and then there's a 0.1 underneath it too, so it's like the 4 ones in a group, all the same. But yeah, then I kind of had this loose thought in my head of wanting to see something, or wanting to see a post from him, right? And as I opened, like, it was immediate. Like, I had this thought of it would be nice to see something of him, and then that's the first thing that pops up on the page, and it has 222 likes already. So it's just like, okay. And of course I liked it, so I was the 223rd. But yeah, that's like what was on there. And then when I was on my way over here, I saw 222.2 on the trip mileage, and then of course there's that little bonus 0.2 under that as well. But it's like, as I was thinking about whatever I'm supposed to be talking about in today's video and whatnot, then I just kind of set the intention, offer a little prayer to the universe, ask for guidance, whatever, and then look down and see the number. And I wasn't expecting it, because the last time I looked at it, I mean, of course I went to the bank between like, I mean, when I saw the 1111 on the thing, because it was 211 on the trip mileage. But still, I didn't think I went that far where that would be, you know, the next number that pops up. But then it was. So yeah, I feel like, okay, like this YouTube journey has been a strong focus on healing the old stuff. And, you know, of course, talk therapy, talking through the family bullshit and realizing the connections of how I ended up with the toxic ex to begin with, and sort of a transition into this next phase of life, right? And so, like, the whole twin flame thing, it's like the purpose of that was because for me, it's been really easy throughout my life to just kind of turn in and disappear within myself. You know, I talk a lot about how I realize it's like I've had all these dreams where I was like hiding out in the bathroom, and then I made the connection with, I literally have spent a ridiculous amount of time in my life, especially in, like, you know, school, especially middle school and high school, where I would literally go duck into the bathroom as a means of getting away from people. So it's like, go to this bathroom and then kind of leapfrog to wherever else I am going on the way. But it's like, at some point there's going to be a bathroom break, and not necessarily because I had to go, but because I was going to hide. You know, just getting away from all the energies of the people around me. And I never really fully made that connection until this whole talk therapy thing that I've been doing. My finger just locked. I should probably find something better to use to hold my phone while I'm doing these videos, because, yeah, my my pinky is currently, I had the little ring thing on it linked around it, and now it's all stiff and sore. Anyway. But yeah, like, the hiding thing. You know, I've talked about, like, once I encountered his energy, it's like I've had several dreams then that have taken place in a bathroom, or started at some point. Part of the dream was in the bathroom, and it's like, there's been a lot of those. Like, I can immediately think of two that I included in the little letter that I wrote the other morning, or yesterday morning. But yeah, it's like, it's just this constant hiding, right? So that, like, that's always the thing. So it's like the twin flame journey part of it was literally the thing that made it so I couldn't just disappear within myself, because it's basically this energy that's like right there tapping me on the shoulder the whole time, be like, nope, you can't do that now what are we doing? We've got to you know, keep going. There's still more that we're processing through here, and it's been rough. You know, I don't even want to try to guess how many minutes I've spent crying through my videos, or like some chunk of my videos. But there's been a lot, and not just in the videos. Yesterday I was kind of feeling that way, and I think part of it was the lack of sleep, but also just general agitation with other things. Yeah. It's just a chronic thing, right? So, how to get there? So yeah, like, the purpose of the twin flame thing was you can't hide from it. It's like it woke me up to this energetic connection that's always been there, that I was able to tune out before, until I realized it was like there's an actual person that it's connected to. And then it's like, you see, okay, there have been a lot of times in my life, like, okay, when I was with my ex, I can think of a time where I was trying to do some writing, and it was kind of what the approach is, though I was writing to somebody, But when I didn't have a somebody specific in mind to write to, it always lost momentum. And, like, I would give up on it and, you know, kind of wander off, whatever. But, like, especially in trying to disconnect from that relationship, you know, it's like if... Because, of course, when I'm journaling, generally, it's not as though I'm writing to anybody in particular. And yet, because of that, it also gets really hard to stay focused on the thing. Whereas, you know, I talked about in January last year, I started journaling all the time. And it's like the Twin Flame books. That's what I call them. And this one is 13, yeah. And I got just a tiny bit left. So I'm going to have to find another one. But 13, because 13 is the number of the death card, again, as I already mentioned. And that, you know, is speaking of transformation. So, to go along with the, what was it, at least 3, maybe even 5 butterflies today on our walk. At least 2 yellow, at least 1 white, although I think I saw the white one twice, so that's kind of where it got a little muddy. But I think there were a couple others in there. There's we were walking like through the baseball fields at one point, and then around the tennis courts, and they were kind of all over the place. Yeah, hold on. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I don't know if we want to count the white one as a repeat, and or since it was at a different area, slightly different, it wasn't too far away. We stopped to pick up the ball, and we saw the feather, and Ziva stopped to sniff something else. So it was like a whole small series of just little things. It just seems like there's a lot of things to kind of watch and follow, and that's the point. I feel like, you know, because in the time with my ex, I remember thinking very specifically that it would be easier to keep up with the stuff if I was actually writing as though I was writing to somebody, you know, and especially like the whole healing thing, and just all of it. And so that's basically like the journals are basically as though I'm writing them to him, but then, you know, I feel like that's the even bigger part of the book that I know I'm supposed to be working on, and that I feel like I'm shifting to. It's basically connecting the dots, you know, in one space, and like there's all these different things going on, because yes, there's the whole healing from the past, and, you know, connecting the dots with all that stuff and making sense of the things that I'm learning, making sense of like the little spiritual things that pop up, and kind of keeping track of those, you know, like all the hawk symbolism, and like all the hawks I see all the time, and the vultures, and we're rocking the vulture earrings today. Okay, so the vultures, let's see, please do carry on. That's Eklektik Shelf, and then we got the aliens today. It's Nocturne Studios 1111, I believe. I have to double check that and put it in the thing. It just seemed like it was good with the Rainbow Goo Goo Dolls shirt and the little bit of rainbow hearts on my pants. Those are, God, I think that place is called Whimsies. It's in Muncie. I don't know. I ordered it online because Derby friend mentioned it, and it's a Derby friend I don't talk to anymore. One that I didn't have a problem with her, it was the other friend that started the glitch in the connection, and then I just was purging people off of the friends, and the other friend went to, because she just kept talking negative. Like, she goes every bit as negative as like my entire family always did. So it was just kind of like, you know what, I really just don't want that negativity, right? So now I have nobody to talk to. But it's peaceful. So there's that. I don't know. You know, I talked about the friend that tried to make the connection something that it wasn't supposed to be, but, you know, provided the wobble in my whole thing for a day or two. You know, and like that whole situation was kind of aggravating, because like back in like September last year, I remember I was getting ready to get in the shower, and I had this thought of maybe it would be nice to have somebody that could help me remember who I am when I'm struggling to remember that. And then by the time I got out of the shower, this friend had reached out on Messenger and did a lot of that kind of stuff. But then eventually it had to shift. It's like, he knew about all the twin flame stuff. He knew that I could build a pretty solid argument on why I was set on believing that path was actually is actually a legit thing. Since I haven't actually met this person in person anyway, barely online. But he still shifted it and tried to make it so it was like him. It's like, nope, it's not you. You know, but it was still just that little momentary thing where there was the wobble, and then I felt bad because the friend was the one that was there saying things and reminding me of who I was. At times I would have difficulty remembering it, but I found that's kind of also annoying because at the end of the day, it was problematic because I was still relying on somebody else outside of me to help me remember who I was. And it's like, I can't be doing that. If like any of this is supposed to be working out, I have to figure it out for myself and hold that truth within me. Like, that just has to be the way that I move in the world, is because I know who I am and am sticking with that, right? Not doing like I always did and forever getting pulled into other people's stuff and taking on the negativity that other people want to put out in the world, right? So, you know, especially with my family, and you know, I've talked about like the whole scapegoat thing and how problematic that's been for my entire life, right? And there's literally, it's just, yesterday, I think, I don't know, my mom had apparently dug through some stuff in the garage to pull out a couple of fans. I didn't know she dug them out. I didn't know that her fan had died in her room and that was why she had dug them out, right? What I do know is we've had the conversation about how my room is like constantly a ridiculous, like so much hotter than the rest of the house. Okay, I'm back in the bedroom. That was my bedroom growing up. It was always the hottest in the summer and the coolest in the winter. You know, it shifted as there are less birds. I figured the other room would be a better office. Now I'm kind of feeling bad because they have less light, so I'm thinking they'll probably just end up back in the bedroom again. but we'll see, because I still have to clean to make that happen. How the hell did I even get there? This, I'm just having that vision pop back into my mind that I mentioned the other day, that I realized I've mentioned before, where, you know, it's like I was seeing each of the videos that I've done as a part of a petal of like a lotus flower, right? So it's like each video I do is like a half of a petal, right? And of course it's kind of opening up and, you know, peeling away the layers, if you will. I forgot my one deck that I was talking about the other day. Okay, so on my series of Wednesday happenings the past couple of weeks, last week I ended up back at the store and ended up finding myself really drawn to this twin flame Ascension. It's a twin flame Ascension, and then it's like Take Me Home Oracle is what it's called. And it's got like a black swan and a white swan on the front of it, but like all the colors, I kind of like my hair, really. When the girl was getting it for me, she brought it out and looked at it, and she said it kind of has your vibe. It's like, it does. It's like the whole color thing and all that fun stuff. But then, you know, I was telling this story, and then one of the cards that I pulled from that deck later was, okay, like there was a series of them that were relevant, and there's one that was Breakthrough. I remember that one. And then I remember Blossoming, because it was the lotus flower, and it's talking about, you know, as the lotus flower opens up to reveal the heart, kind of a thing. And it's like, oh, so there's that connection again, huh? So that's what, like, the purpose of the video is, like, this big revealing who I am kind of thing, right? Who I am at the heart. You know, and that too, you know, I made that as above, so below connection, right? So the twin flame connection, he is the as above to the so below, right? And so for his heart space, that'd be as within to the so without. And it's me, right? So like that's one of the weird connections that I've made on this whole thing. And it's like, even that makes sense because, okay, I've talked about how, okay, so like, I think I was actually still with my ex when I saw the thing that was talking about, if you really want to be happy in a relationship, find somebody whose sun sign is your Venus sign. And I was like, well, theoretically, you know, because, okay, my sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars, and my rising are all in Cancer, but my Venus is in Leo, and my ex was a Leo. He definitely, his Venus was definitely not Cancer. There's part of me that wants to guess Aquarius, but I'm not going to try to get that information from his family. I don't ever want to talk to them, so, or at least I don't want any kind of connection to him again, so that's the big thing. But, yeah, so when I was thinking about that last spring, well, I mean, we're still technically spring because we haven't hit the summer solstice yet, so, yeah, but 2024, it's like when I started embracing the bolder aspect, the Leo and Venus part, right? So, like, my you know, the way I connect it is, well, of course, love. So heart makes sense, right? So my heart is Leo. And that makes sense of why some of my important connections through my life have been Leos. My aunt that I talk to the most, which haven't really talked to her much since my grandfather died, because now she's caught up in dealing with my mom. And more so my grandma, because now my mom's wrapped up a lot with what's going on with my dad and isn't dealing with grandma as much as she was previously. So it's been a little while for that aunt too. But with the best friend that moved here in 5th grade that I talked about a while back, she was a Leo. But yeah, then the one that I married, I should not have married. And again, knew that, but at the same time, felt like I was obligated to it. Like with that relationship, it felt like I picked the absolute worst one because I needed it for my dad or my brother to be able to see that he was not a good choice and say something to me to release me from feeling like I was obligated to marrying him. And they didn't say it. So then I felt like I was stuck, right? So even though my mom said it, her view did not matter because she's always trying to live vicariously through me and take over my life rather than allowing me to have a life, right? So, oh, that's how we meandered down there. So, was it last night or the night before? Now I don't remember. Anyway, one of these past couple days, she had dug out these fans that I didn't know she dug out, because I remember seeing them in the garage. It wasn't she had to dig real far or anything. It was they were in the camping stuff. They were just further back. I had seen them, but then I saw them on the floor. So I was like, hot damn, fan, you know, to go along with the other fans in my room, since it's like, you know, it still gets to up to 76 when I'm sleeping in there. And then I went back. Yeah, okay, it was Sunday night, because I was writing, and that was yesterday morning when I posted it at 5 a.m. finally, because what I had to cut down because it was saying it was too long, so I had to, you know, kind of tweak some things on there. Anyway, she came in and was like, "Did you take my fan?" It's like, no, because I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said something about I dug out these 2 fans in the garage and now they're nowhere to be found. It's like, oh, it's like, well, only one of them. It's like, I took one of them. And she was like, well, I pulled that out because my fan stopped working and I need a fan. It's like, well, I didn't know that. You didn't say anything to me about it. However, we did have the conversation about my room getting hot all the time. So, of course, I know she's not that generous. Not without motive. So, yeah. Anyway, she made a big deal. And when I went in my room and grabbed it, the look on her face, it's like, oh, she is my grandfather. And she is still doing the same stupid bullshit that he always did, that whole scapegoating thing. And trying to, in that case, she was like trying to make me feel stupid or whatever because I didn't know her fan crapped out, and that's why she had pulled the other one out further. But I sent my brother a message. I was like, dude, your mom's a bitch. And he's like, we on the things like this, it's like when it just really that Donald moment shifts in her. She was named after him. I mean, not fully, but Donald and Donita. So yeah. But yeah, I was just like, dude, your mom's a bitch. And I told him what happened, and he's like, yeah, that's, you know. And then I don't know. You're just really fucking irritating. But it was the same damn look. Like, she's just out to make you know how stupid you are because you didn't know Because you can't read her mind, basically. That's the aggravating thing. It's like, she never told me, so if she didn't tell me, how was I supposed to know that her fan stopped working, and therefore she needed a fan, and pulled the others out because of that. Whatever. But then I was thinking, it's like, that's the one thing you could rely on from my grandfather, was he would find a way to make everybody else look or feel stupid however he could. And, you know, okay, like, that was one of the arguments of my grandmother before he died. Was, you can't die, what are we gonna do? We don't know how to do things if you aren't here. It's like, ew. And she went to that a couple times, and I just looked at her the second time she said it, and I said, that is not helpful. You know, that was the day I told my mom at some point it had to be okay for her daddy to die. Which was kind of weird, because it's like, it took that for that connection to release, and then it was, I'm wanting to say that was on Sunday, maybe, and then on Tuesday he died. And that man had every intention of dying on her birthday, had she not at the last minute said, you can't die on my birthday. But in a way, he still kind of did, because, yeah, he technically died the day before, but then she was at the funeral home trying to figure out funeral arrangements on her birthday, so he still hijacked that too, right? But then it's like the whole, like the whole foundation of his existence was relying on everybody else to be stupid and making everybody else feel stupid. So then, you know, when he can bully my mom and her sister, who both worked in medical, long enough to know that you shouldn't, if he's in the hospital, there are people there to move him from the bed to the chair, or from the chair to the bed. And not him tell them he was fine, but then bully my mom and her sister into going against what they know and doing the stupid thing anyway. Because they knew they weren't really able to do that, to make that, to, you know, move him like that anymore. My aunt worked at that hospital for a long time before she had her, you know, before she died. Yeah, so she died for like a half hour and they brought her back. But, yeah, so it's like the big thing was he counted on everybody else to be too stupid to exist without him, because that was part of what kept him, you know, kept them feeding their life force energy into him and keeping him around longer than necessary. And that man should have died 33 years ago. And I'm going to hold to that one because that's all, you know, for 33 years of my life, that's all that man was good for, was bullying me and, you know, bullying everybody, really. But, you know, I was kind of the one where, you know, the whole family would kind of diminish me to appease him in some kind of way, right? So, yeah. Anyway. You know, but I feel like that's like the big part of the whole book direction is, yes, this stuff happened, but focusing more on the means of processing through it and actually doing the work to heal from it, and the divine connections I've been making since then, and how, like, life is very much engaged with everything we're doing, and it wants to lead us, but we're taught that, you know, we have to rely on some bullshit. Basically, the system is narcissistic, and that's why there are so many people that have been caught up in the narcissistic family situations, like me, because you know, we're trying to find a new way of, a better way for this world to work, because obviously the one that currently exists is garbage. This whole fucking system. I was thinking earlier, I've been thinking a lot lately about, okay, that letter that I got from the IRS or whatever, talking about how my social security number may have been used for somebody to get a job, and their only suggestion of what to do was to file my taxes early. It's like, interesting. So I'm obligated to have this stupid number attached to me, but you can't keep me safe in any kind of way. My information's safe, and that's not really the purpose of it anyway, is it? You know, it's so they know that I am, based on the information that they assigned to me or whatever. But it's just a fucking number. And currently, with the state of things, it looks like IRS information is being misused to hunt people out of their homes, right? So, yeah, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the things that keep us bound to the identity that, you know, like everything wants, you know, multiple things, right? So you have okay, somebody gets your name, address, birth date, social security number, they can steal your identity, right? But it's like, those aren't the things that make you who you are. Those are just things that make it convenient for other people to find you, right? That one's been especially annoying me since I've seen that they're hunting people based on that information now. Yeah. It's more like, basically the whole system in place is just toxic narcissists and all the flying monkeys to keep everybody in line so they can pull the strings. Right? And nobody in the government actually gives a shit about the people. But as long as they can keep the people divided, then they can continue to stay in power, and, you know, the rich keep getting richer and everybody else keeps suffering. That fucking sucks. But if they, you know, that goes back to that point. United we stand, divided we fall, and therefore they keep us divided so they thrive and can manipulate us into doing whatever the fuck they want us to, right? So, like, even that military bit, it's like, you're just a number there. And I think that's why, you know, like, okay, veteran suicide is like, I don't want to say that one's like 22 a day. Yeah. Because that goes back to that piece where when I was taking my mom to the rehab hospital the other day, I get out of the truck and look at my phone, and I have a message that was sent to me at 2:22 p.m. And it was a guy in my former guard unit sending me the obituary for another guy that had been in our guard unit. And when I asked what happened, it was 22 a day, meaning he committed suicide. So it's just like weird synchronicities keep lining up. You know, it's like they're literally guiding me all the way. It's like, okay, now pay attention, this is important, right? So there's a lot of that pay attention, this is important bit. And then trying to make sense of it. And, you know, that's where a lot of my connecting the dots comes in at. And, you know, why religion especially works so hard to demonize women, because the feminine rules over the upper chakras, right? So that's your throat, third eye, and crown. And the masculine rules over the lower chakras, which is the root, sacral, and solar plexus. And then they meet in the heart. And so we live in a world that wants to keep us separated in the system, like this, you know, between the dualities, right? But in order to be a complete human or spiritual being, it's like you have to marry the two within yourself to become, you know, the divine being that we're here to be. So they keep us locked into the duality. So, you know, of course, trying to keep women locked in as property. And you don't have to look very hard in this system to fucking see that. Unless you are intentionally trying to keep yourself blinded by the bullshit. And the flying monkeys are there to help keep you blinded by the bullshit and make it very hard for you to, you know, detach from that, disconnect from that way of being, and to come into the fullness of who you are. You know, because they don't want that. Because the more of us that do that, the less control they have. You know, so I've talked a lot about how, like, my whole journey has been being over-identified with the feminine aspect of myself. But because the feminine, or the view of the feminine that I was shown everywhere was the distorted one, you know, not in the power and very much property only and all this kind of bullshit, the distorted feminine, since I was over-identifying with the feminine aspect of myself, that was keeping myself from being able to have my own firm foundation, you know, and like, you know, the twin flame connection was what awakened me to the fact that this is an aspect of myself that is already there within me. I already have the power and capability of doing things that I would have thought myself otherwise incapable of, because my family, you know, made sure that I felt like it was just the worst thing in the world to not belong, and yet there was no way I could belong to the system that they exist in, because it's a toxic system, and, you know, it's not one for winning. But what it did do was keep me disconnected from being able to have the power and ability within myself to do things for myself. So I was kind of relying on needing to find somebody outside of myself to protect me and to provide and all, you know, all the bullshit things. But it's like, no. I mean, it's a matter of figuring out how to meld the things together. But, you know, it's like, that's the biggest thing. It's like the system tries to keep women in distortion, because the more empowered we become and realize that we're able to hold space for ourselves, to be safe, even if there's not a big strong man there to protect us or whatever. It's like, the whole game changes, right? So, you know, and that's still something that really pisses me off is like when I got married, it was really easy to change my name, right? 444. And really easy to add my husband into all of this shit. The most aggravating was it was really easy with his permission to take money out of my retirement account for us to move to Alabama, you know, to help with that move for a job that he took down there. I had to have his permission. I had to have him also sign the paperwork, even though no part of that job had he been connected to at all. And he only got added into the paperwork when I married him. But then I needed his permission to take the money out. Even though it was his idea, I mean, largely, because, well, he needed that, right? He needed access to my money in that way. So we take the money out, make this move, right? And I couldn't have just taken it out without him after that point. It's like once we got married, had to have his permission. It's like, that's some bullshit. But then, same dude, knowing that I had, you know, maxed out or tapped out my freaking retirement account to help us with the move, and had taken the hit from my fucking student loans. I maxed out a couple semesters to help with household expenses. Because, you know, I'd lost the job that I had shortly, or while we got married. We signed the lease on the house, and within a half an hour, I got a phone call, or actually, I got the phone call while we were signing the lease on the house, but I didn't answer it until, you know, I got the message like a half hour later because we were signing the lease on a house. And it ended up being the temp agency that I worked for. My job was no longer there. So because I lost the job right after we signed the lease on the house, I maxed out the student loan that semester, and then, you know, help pay for that stuff. And I said, look, we'll just max out the student loan for right now, and then I'll focus on getting a job in the summer, right? And then the semester ends on May 8th, and May 14th I fell and got a traumatic brain injury and was all sorts of fucked up for a while. I mean, you could still argue in a lot of ways that it's still relevant and still some hanging on issues. The neurologist I had up here said that I was having partial seizures. So like I would be talking to somebody and like completely check out and forget I was even talking in the middle of a sentence. Yeah, so like, okay, there was lots of tests that guy did or ordered for me to have to see what was going on. And when I went for the follow-up, he said, how's work going? It's like, well, I don't have a job right now. I said, I'm trying to go to school for my master's degree. And he says, how's that going for you? It's like, I don't like the sound of that. Making it sound like it's a big kind of joke that I'm trying to go to school. And then he said that apparently what I was doing was having like these little seizures, and lots of them. And I said, oh, so when I feel like my brain gets the hiccups. He's like, that's a good way of explaining it. It's like, yeah, okay. So when my brain gets the hiccups, it's apparently having seizures. So, yeah. And, I mean, I'm not going to argue that here in this space, because I've been talking for over an hour, and I just kind of, you know, follow the path wherever it takes me. And, you know, sometimes I do derail. Sometimes I come back to it. Sometimes I just get lost. You know, whatever. It's always an adventure. But yeah, that semester, or before that, or the semester I lost the job, I maxed out my student loans so I could help with the household expenses. Then I did it again when we were getting ready to move so we could get the truck ready to go to Alabama. The truck that he kept, yeah. But guess who still has the student loans to pay back? That, yeah, he kept all the stuff. He kept all the vehicles, and yeah. You know, but that's just kind of, that's literally the system works to keep women disempowered, because if women see themselves as, from the distorted viewpoint of, you know, as property, which is what they largely try to paint the picture of, and like the more I think about this stuff, the more it pisses me off, to be honest. So yeah, you know, for how long was it before women could get bank accounts on their own without a husband, or anything like that? But yet they're supposed to maintain some control over women's reproductive systems. That's fucked up. You know, which is, and you know, going to why they, you know, especially the religious types, pushed so hard for, you know, to marry off children, right? So creepy old men could marry little girls, and then they'd be stuck, right? So, and as they, you know, like the less education they have, the more stuck they think they are. You know, and going back to thinking about how my mom acts where my grandfather's concerned. Like, there are some things that come up that she just acts like she's just the biggest dipshit in the world. It's like, no, that's just fucking conniving right there. It's like, because you do know something more about it than you think you do, or than you're willing to let anybody else think you do, but because he taught you that you were supposed to be stupid and, you know, just do whatever he wanted you to do, you just went along with it. So that's just, like, enabling the bullshit, right? That's continuing to perpetuate this toxic idea system of if you're too dumb to know anything better, then you won't do anything better, right? So you play dumb at the expense of yourself and others. Not okay with that. You know, but I was raised where I was supposed to be okay with that. And it's like, I tried to conform to that for a long time. It's like, no, it's all bullshit. You know, and now that the biggest thing was, okay, the twin flame connection pushed me to start setting boundaries. And then a lot of things in my life kept pushing me to commit to the boundaries and take that seriously. And it's literally because all these toxic connections, because the distorted masculine wants the distorted feminine to be forever in distortion so they can continue to do whatever the fuck they want and fuck the rest of us over. But as women become more empowered and, you know, are able to bring more of the spiritual side of things back into the picture, you know, because of course the, you know, groups of like the civilizations and whatnot where Christianity steps in to try to convert the heathens but all they're really doing is killing off anybody that doesn't submit to the bullshit that they're pushing on them. You know, and they have to brutalize women, because if they don't, you know, especially ones that haven't been familiar with that religious toxicity, you know, beating the religion into them, the narcissism, you know, it's the, you know, the ones that don't bend over backwards to enable the toxic masculine components to stay toxic have to be killed off, because otherwise they're going to be running their mouths. And the more people start to realize there's more to that, you know, and the things that they say, okay, going back to when I started setting the boundaries and really realizing the toxic bullshit with my family. And then all I could do was make little comments here and there to my brother about what I was noticing. And then he started noticing it too. That's what they don't want. Because the more feminines that step out of the distortion and into the divinity side of things, the less power they have. But it has to start with the feminine first. Because we have to realize that we have more power than we've been led to believe. But they don't want us to believe that, because then they lose power. And they lose power as we find our power, right? So they don't like that. And again, the distorted masculine is that which, okay. You know, I've talked about how, like, throughout history, they've married off girls at a young age to creepy old men. That's because the womb space is sacred. And if we remember who we are and step into our divinity, we're not giving access of that to just anybody, right? So I am eternally grateful that when I was in high school, I set the intention that if I could not heal from the bullshit that was being imposed on me by my family, then I didn't want kids. Because I feel like the worst thing that I've been diagnosed with on that end is ovarian cysts. But it's always been really excruciatingly bad periods and whatnot. Like to the point where one of my roommates in undergrad was freaking out about whether she was going to have to take me to the emergency room one night because I was in so much pain, right? So after that, we ended up, I got checked out, but, you know, and she was talking about cysts. But yeah, it's like that was a whole ordeal trying to get that information even. But what I've realized is, you know, my life set me up to believe that I was a whore. But when I started healing and realized that was bullshit, and that was a stupid idea that had been imposed upon me, and that, yes, I made some bad decisions that took me some dark paths from there. But what I realized is if I would have known about this connection, this twin flame thing, none of those other things would have been able to, like, have access to me at all. Right? So they want you stuck in the distortion so they can keep you out of your power, because then they, you know, and the reproductive rights, they don't want women to have control over their own bodies, because then they lose their power, right? Because that's where a lot of the power comes from, because that's, you know, creation. The womb space is for a creation space, right? And if you are bound by these toxic energetic connections to people that never should have had access to you, that's what keeps you out of your power. And yeah, this whole fucking thing's complicated, and it's a whole lot of bullshit. Yeah. But yeah, like, that's the biggest thing. Is like, once I started doing the healing work and realizing how much all the stuff that had been imposed upon me, or that I accepted because I had been conditioned to believe it at some level, it's like I never would have gotten into a lot of the connections that I've been in. You know, like the first guy that I dated, I've talked about that a few times. It's like, I tried to break up with him 3 times. I did break up with him 3 times, but it was very short-lived each time. But it was always because I knew he wasn't the one that I was looking for. But then at a certain point, it got to the place of he was at least a safe option during that time when it wasn't okay for me to believe in this other thing. Right? So he was at least somebody that was safe to be connected to, and wasn't trying to push me into anything or whatever. He was at least a good guy on that end. But, you know, it's like, how many girls get into toxic connections with guys that aren't good guys? Or even better, the self-proclaimed good guys that are anything but. You know, the ones that, you know, okay. I think it was my, I don't remember. Anyway, I think it is one of the tiger cards in the Animal Apothecary deck. It talks about, like, the second you have to tell anybody of your power is like the second you lose it. Like, that whole idea. I don't know if that's from the cards or not. I'm pretty sure it is. You can go back and forth with that. But yeah, it's like, I think that Monty Mater is the one that I saw recently talking about how they're trying to enact laws to force girls, particularly like female athletes, to be subjected to, you know, make sure they're genuinely female, right, in order to participate. And of course, you know, that falls into the males are supposed to be the ones that, you know, are able to enforce this kind of bullshit. Okay, that takes me back to that whole military thing, where when I went into the military in, okay, so July 2011 is when I enlisted. And it was so important to make sure I lined up with what was on my birth certificate that, okay, like one of the first things you do for the whole military entrance processing bullshit is you have to go to this building with all these other, you know, all these other people, and you go into this room with the other girls, and you're in your bras and panties and socks to keep some dignity, and, you know, they're looking at you to make sure your spine is straight or whatever the fuck they're looking for or claim they're fucking looking for. You know, and like this whole thing with like the duck walk and like all this stupid shit to make sure your body functions like they claim it's so important for it to function, right? And then you go into a room with 2 female doctors, or, well, at least one military military doctor, I mean, I don't know all the details of all, like, the thing. All I know is it's supposed to be a doctor and then, like, the assistant or whatever, right? So, like, the 2 women were in there for me. And they go all up in making sure that the inside parts and the outside parts match what's on the fucking birth certificate. For what? That didn't prove my worthiness. That didn't prove that I was able to be there. That didn't prove anything. What it did do is further emphasize that this or that, male or female, and ultimately, you know, the thing that, when I was thinking about this a while back, the thing that came to mind was the scene in the movie Taken where she's on the stage and being watched by all these, you know, creepy dudes in the trafficking stuff, and they're bidding on her, right? But, like, it's like, we may not have been technically getting trafficked, but that's the same fucking idea. Like, that's the same kind of system that allows the other system to exist. Because you're nothing more than the parts you have to serve the other. Fuck all that nonsense. You know, and, like, being in basic training, and then, okay, so it was when it was starting to get cold of an evening, then we had to stand in formation for a ridiculously long time, doing nothing, and basically it was to, you know, to follow orders, and you're gonna have to submit yourself to, like, freaking frigid temperatures somewhere on some assignment, most likely, so you might as well get used to this awkwardly uncomfortable experience. But, you know, then they say, you know, make your battle buddy happy, which is supposed to mean get closer so you can have some, like, body heat and whatnot, but, you know, so you kind of collapse the ranks in a little bit. But then it leaves it open because there's the this or that, and only this is supposed to be here, and that's not. But since they want to be here so fucking bad, then, you know, we'll allow them to be in here, but we're still going to make sure they know that they're, you know, not the same. You know, and, you know, so the dude behind me thinks it's appropriate to push his dick up against me while I'm standing in formation, right? And because in the moment, my thought was, who the fuck even cares, right? So it's like, whatever, you know, and kind of in that instant, leaned back, and it's like, I kind of blew it off at the moment until the next day when it was clear that I'd been talked about. And then all the dudes are looking at me in some kind of way because they know what kind of person I am, right? No, you don't. Now, empowered me, current version of me, I probably would have turned around and fucking decked that dude. Should have. Probably would have gotten in a lot of trouble in basic training. But, should have. But that's exactly what they don't want. Because as soon as, you know, we start being empowered and pushing back against the toxicity, it's not going to survive, right? So that's why the system is basically kind of imploding on itself. And yet, as long as they can keep us divided and think that, you know, the other people, you know, the people on the right or the left are, you know, keep us divided by right and left, right? But, you know, I've always been of the mindset, it's like I'm more conservative than liberal, but more liberal than conservative. But what that is I would like to find a balanced way of being. I don't agree with everything this side says. I don't agree with everything that side says. But if you say anything that the far right doesn't agree with, then you're automatically locked in, or they automatically lump you with the far left. And if you say anything the far left doesn't agree with, then they automatically lump you in with the far right. But it's like, that's all fucked up. And it's just trying to keep the division, right? Trying to focus and enhance the division so you're less likely to become empowered within yourself, right? So they don't want men to start connecting more with the feminine aspect of themselves, you know, where they have actual feelings and can empathize with others. You know, they don't want that at all, because if that starts to happen, you know, then those types are more, they're going to step into like their power on, you know, being protective of the other too, you know, whereas if they can keep us divided to this or that, and, you know, then locked into that distortion, then they don't have to worry about it, because as long as you're willing to play the flying monkey, if you're not, you know, not willing to connect with the humanity in another person, or if you can look past the humanity in another person because you accept the ways that they've been demonized and whatever, you know, they try to paint the picture that they're the enemy or whatever, based on skin color, based on friggin' the way what gender they fall under, or what expression, you know, like how somebody chooses to express themselves. Don't like that. But like, that's the problem with the system, is if the system doesn't work for even one person, it doesn't actually work, because it doesn't care for the people. It cares about keeping the distortion alive so it can choke the flow and keep all of us in an energetic slavery to the bullshit. Yeah. It's an hour and a half, so I'm going to wrap it up. As always, I appreciate you. Till the next time. See ya.